I am trying to save lives. I was born and raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Mormons, therefore, are my people. I am trying to save lives. I have tried lots of different ways over all these years, and instead, my people are trying to shut me up, even if by murder. I am trying to save your lives. We are Latter-day Saints for a reason. There's an extermination event coming. I am trying to save your lives. And Mormons, my people, want me dead. I will not stop trying to save your lives. On with the show. Tomorrow, we're gonna go to sleep. Travis Wingedzel. The windows of heaven are falling today, and likely tomorrow too, from what I understand. Even possibly into Monday. But AI keeps changing. Can't be trusted for the weather. Not like we could for the weather girls back in the good old analog days. So, been struggling to figure out where to start. And we'll start with the Book of Mormon. Investigation. It's gotta have forensic investigation. You can't just make accusations and then make stuff up to fit the narrative or do a character assassination of a person. You have to use the evidence of the crime scene. Go before the event, look after the event. You can't just make stuff up. People's lives are on the line. There's victims who need justice, not pacification of a false arrest by somebody who didn't do it. Alma, chapter 1, verse 12. Nahor slays Gideon. He was a priestcrafter. Gideon confronted him on his false doctrine. Nahor, as the sensitive snowflake that he was, being caught with his lies and theft, conning people out of their money to support his lifestyle as a religious leader, decided that his God ordered him to murder him. So he was brought before Alma, who was the chief judge of the land, And Alma says in verse 12, Alma chapter 1, "Behold, this is the first time that priestcraft has been introduced among this people. And behold, thou art not only guilty of priestcraft, but hast endeavored to enforce it with the sword. And were priestcraft to be enforced among this people, it would prove their entire destruction." Utter destruction. So we skip ahead to 3 Nephi chapter 7. "Now behold, I will show unto you that they did not establish a king over the land. But in the same year, yea, the 30th year, they did destroy upon the judgment seat, yea, did murder the chief judge of the land. And the people were divided one against another, and they did separate one from another into tribes, every man according to his family, and his kindreds and friends. And thus they did destroy the government of the land. Now all this was done that there were no wars as yet among them, and all this iniquity had come upon this people, because they did yield themselves unto the power of Satan, and the regulations of the government were destroyed because of the secret combination of the friends and kindreds of those who murdered the prophets. The religion joined with the Gadianton band and did destroy, utterly destroy the government." Second vision of Joseph Smith. When Joseph Smith plagiarizes the Bible, there's always new stuff in there. The Joseph Smith translation, there was new stuff put in. That is what we as members must pay attention to. The new stuff. We shouldn't obsess and focus on whether the plagiarized stuff has errors in translation. Pay attention to the new stuff. So the new stuff from the Malachi who comes to talk to him as the sun god at noonday, quotes from the 3rd chapter of Malachi with a little variation. "For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly, shall burn as stubble." Here's what's added. "For they that come shall burn them, saith the Lord of hosts." Armies. "That it shall leave them neither root nor branch." The 5th verse is then plagiarized, and then verse 6 has something added at the end. "And he shall plant in the hearts of the children the promises made to the fathers, and the hearts of the children shall turn to their fathers." Here's what's added. "If it were not so, the whole earth would be utterly wasted at his coming." So the new stuff is talking about an extermination event by a group of humans who are framing and blaming Jesus. case you missed the first vision. But isn't Joseph Smith a Christian? Isn't that the name of the church? You never did bother to study church history, did you? The original document of Joseph Smith does not have Jesus Christ in the name of it. So, let's reread this with the correct name of Joseph's church in 1838. After Section 115 is supposedly have been written and not put in until Brigham Young's 1876 Doctrine and Covenants. Owing to the many reports which have been put in circulation by evil-disposed and designing persons in relation to the rise and progress of the Church of the Latter-day Saints, all of which have been designed by the authors thereof to militate against its character as a church and its progress in the world. So, no Jesus Christ. In fact, in verse 19, the sun god at noonday tells Joseph Smith that he must join none of the Christian churches, for they were all wrong. And the sun god at noonday said that all their creeds were an abomination in his sight. Great and abominable church. And those professors were all corrupt, that they draw near to me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They teach for doctrines the commandments of men, having a form of godliness, but deny the powers of seer, prophet, revelator, and translator of Paleo, Hebrew, and Egyptian. And the Methodist preacher is that example of denying the powers. Visions and revelations all ceased with the apostles. Yes, they did when Joseph Smith died. Yes, they did. So the evil-disposed and designing militant persons against the Church of the Latter-day Saints were the very ones who put Jesus in the name. Section 84 of the Doctrine and Covenants. The church is under condemnation for lying about the Book of Mormon to converts. Evil-disposed and designing militant persons about the rise and progress and character of the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which back in 1832 was still the Church of Christ. And so, 86, December, not September, 1832, still the missionaries are lying about the church. Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball converted a lot of men who became missionaries that year. These are the ones he's talking about. Verily, thus saith the Lord unto you, my missionaries, concerning the parable of the wheat and the tares. Behold, verily I say, the field was the world, and the apostles were the sowers of the seed. And after they have fallen asleep, the great persecutor of the church, the apostate, the whore, even Babylon, that maketh all nations to drink of her cup. Why didn't you decode Babylon in chapter or section 1, verse 16, Bruce R. McConkie? Plug in Great and Abominable Church. That maketh all nations to drink of her cup, in whose hearts the enemy, even Satan, sitteth to reign. Behold, he soweth the tares. Wherefore the tares choke the wheat and drive the church into the wilderness of the Salt Lake Valley. It's very clear that seed is likened unto word. The word of the Book of Mormon, the word of Joseph Smith, is the wheat. And missionaries are lying about the word of the Book of Mormon and the word of Joseph Smith, who were converted by Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball. Should have read Revelation 3:9 first. Oops. The church in Sardis. Actually, Philadelphia here in verse 7. To the angel of the church in Philadelphia, sisterly love, write, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David. 7a, priesthood keys, TG sealing. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it is that could be the key of David. He that openeth, and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set up before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan. Synagogue is Jewish, not Christian, not Islamic, not Mormon. Synagogue is Jewish. So Jews are Satan worshippers. Nope. Keep reading. Which say they are Jews. Oh. And are not, but do lie. Synagogue of Satan. Joseph Smith is calling out Mormons as Mormons of Satan. Those who are in his church and are lying about it. A secret combination in Joseph Smith's church. Now we go on. So we did the second vision. So shortly after Joseph Smith wrote the second vision, the first and second, 1838, he was not able to publish it. He keeps getting framed and blamed by false brethren, Mormons. Thomas B. Marsh was approached by a company consisting of all that are considered true Mormons, calling themselves Danites, judges from Hebrew. They swore an oath to support the heads of the church in all things that they say or do, whether right or wrong. Thomas B. Marsh is the head of the church, as the president of the Quorum of the 12 Missionaries. And he's just finding this out. He had seen what they had done in Gallatin, in Missouri. They went in, looks like they did take prisoners, although they say just one prisoner. And another joined the company. They burned it to the ground, and so they would have murdered the men and the women and the children. And they stole all of the goods, and they took it to the bishop's storehouse, he called it. But he called it DALLIN. He does not call it Adam on Diamond here. Although, in this other location in his affidavit, which I'm not finding immediately, I know I saw that before. No, he says, we got to Diamond on Tuesday evening. Then he again calls it the storehouse at Diamond. Yeah, they called a meeting and named themselves the Destruction Company for the purpose of burning and destroying. And then you were using that company to attack Mormons, to threaten them to join their group, join them in their murders, thefts, and burnings. Or they too would be murdered, burned, and destroyed. Done in secret combination. I am not seeing the other Adam on Diamond. Interesting. Statements. Oh, here it is. Yeah, here at the end. The number of armed men at Adam on Diamond was between 300 and 400, Thomas B. Marsh. He does not know about Adam on Diamond. He was just finding out for the first time. He doesn't know it's Adam on Diamond, like section 117 says. because the bishop's storehouse comes from section 117. Verse 8. Is there not enough room on the mountains of Adam, Ondai, Omen, and on the plains of Olaha, Shinha? Now, if this were to be decoded, as they said that they decoded everything, this would be Kirtland. Or the land where Adam dwelt, that you should covet that which is but the drop, and neglect the more weightier matters. Verse 11. That my servant Newell K. Whitney be ashamed of the Nicolaitan band. This is a Mormon band. He's using Revelation chapter 2. If we're to assume that this is Joseph like it says it was. And of all their secret abominations. So this Mormon band, using the code name Nicolaitan from Revelation chapter 2, is a secret combination with secret abominations, similar to the great and abominable church of Christianity, and of all littleness of soul before me, saith the Lord, and come up to the land of Adam, Ondai, Amen, and be a bishop unto my people. Oops. 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 That's where they were putting all the loot that they stole and plundered from the neighboring people. And Thomas B. Marsh knew nothing of this place. Do you see how vital it is to investigate crime scenes? To not just trust, especially to trust the one responsible for the crime. They lie. Thomas B. Marsh is the president of the 12 Apostles, as Joseph condemned them for sowing tares as apostates. He is responsible for sending out the missionaries to the various locations that they go. And they have to return and report, we've established a church in this town that you sent us. So that Thomas B. Marsh has a record of where he sent them, which towns converted and are now part of the church, so that he then calls them to another town and another and another, so that Thomas B. Marsh knows all of the churches established. He doesn't know what they said to those people who converted, because they could lie. But he's supposed to know where the church is established. And then he returns and reports to Joseph. So if Thomas B. Marsh doesn't know, Joseph doesn't know. Because Thomas B. Marsh is the one authorized only to report to Joseph. Rogue missionaries don't report to Joseph. Joseph would say, "Did you tell Thomas B. Marsh? He's supposed to tell me this." He was then told by this group of apostate Mormons that they had a plan for the future to do what they were doing in 1838. But to the United States of America, and ultimately the whole world. Armageddon. From Revelation 16. Extermination Order number 44 was enacted, and both President Hinckley and President Monson got up at the pulpit of conference and lied about it, claiming they're just reading from the report by George Albert Smith, who was one of the people. George Albert Smith, I've already done the videos recently again, pulling out my records, transferring the files to again repeat information for you guys. Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, Wilford Woodruff, and George Albert Smith all fled the country when Joseph Smith got out of Liberty Jail with forged mission licenses, wrong name of the church, wrong signature, claiming to be by Joseph. They fled the country. And then the Times and Seasons in Nauvoo, by the Danites, encoded their communications to Brigham Young to let him know if it was safe to return. Joseph Smith would go on to condemn the 12 in a meeting in 1839 for what they did to a good man, Thomas B. Marsh, and exalting themselves. Joseph Smith in the Joseph Smith Papers learns that there are missionaries who have forged licenses. They are imposter Mormons. They're in Nauvoo. A number of people died of a sickness. Almost like they were poisoned. Extermination Order number 44 by Governor Lilburn M. Boggs. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as a branch off of Brigham Young, who was the leader of this band, who forged documents, who fled the country after the assassination of Joseph Smith. Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., son of Hiram Smith, taken care of by Heber C. Kimball with his brother and his mom. He was a boy. He then would become the Dark Ages president of the church. The United States had shut down Brigham Young's abomination of desolation that Brigham Young incorporated on the 6th of February, 1851 as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. was not sooner. It was there in the documents as the governor of the territory of Utah for the state of Deseret. Yeah, United States saw through that and dissolved it. Shut it all down. Tithing was the crime, with the Perpetual Immigration Fund as well. John Taylor was dipping into the kiddie pool. Oh my hell. But again, investigate, do research. You witness firsthand. I didn't know he dipped into the kiddie pool. Stanford asked me a question. I had looked up the answer live. You found out as I found out. And I show you how to do it. And so, despite having told Thomas B. Marsh openly that they are the enemy of mankind, that they are going to cause destruction, and blame Joseph Smith, you now see what they indoctrinated Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. The Way to Perfection, The Gathering at Adam-on-Diamond, pages 290 and 291, under The Keys of the Everlasting Kingdom. In this council, Christ will take over the reins of government. A coup? Blaming Jesus, huh? And it shall be given unto the people of the saints of the Most High. So Jesus isn't going to reign? Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him, even Jesus Christ. So no Jesus, it's actually the Mormons, and you're using Emmanuel in there, huh? The synagogue of Satan, of liars who claim to be Mormon but are not. Thrones to be cast down. Then shall Jesus give the government to the saints of the Most High. Not Jesus? Don't we believe that Jesus has a body of flesh and bones as tangible as man's, and that he will come and reign personally upon the earth? Why is he giving it up to Mormons? Pay attention to the words. He doesn't know. He is told the cover story, the code, and he doesn't know it. Because if he were in on this, he would have shut his trap. Because we get to it under by voice of the priesthood. This council in the valley of Adam-on-Diamond is to be of the greatest importance to this world. At that time, there will be a transfer of authority from the usurper and impostor, Lucifer. He's going to be in attendance in the presence of Jesus. To the rightful King, Jesus Christ. Judgment will be set. All those who have held keys will make their reports and deliver their stewardships, as they shall be required. Our Lord will then assume the reins of government. I thought he was giving it back to the church. Directions will be given to the priesthood, and he whose right it is to rule will be installed officially by the voice of the priesthood there assembled. When this gathering is held, the world will not know of it. The members of the church at large will not know of it. It's a secret combination. Yet it shall be preparatory to the coming in the clouds of glory of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Armageddon. The day that shall burn as an oven, and they that come shall burn them, saith the Lord of hosts. The world cannot know of it. They're going to be pissed. The saints cannot know of it. I don't know why. Mormons seem to want it. Except for Mark Skousen, who officially was installed in that secret combination, the Council for National Policy, from which Project 2025 emerged, among other abominations. It is to precede the coming of Jesus Christ, the thief in the night, unbeknownst to the world. Yep. So I had already exposed all of this for you guys. That's why I'm here. Church was pissed. Nobody's supposed to know. Rivers, you're not keeping your covenant path. Really? The coup in the law of consecration, huh? That everything is for the kingdom. And that the law of sacrifice, that I'm supposed to kill myself to make sure the church gets their kingdom back. No thank you. No thank you. I'm an Eagle Scout. Just barely. If my church is not true, you can burn in hell. So I already knew. I've already been warning you guys about all this. 2020 came around, I already knew what was going on in 2020. I did the videos. But it came and went. Where we didn't go to Zion. Fall of the church did not happen. I would then find the way to perfection after October Conference 2021. And then that would lead me to here. As I said last night, I have been trying to save your lives. That's the whole intention of this channel. That's why I stopped doing the typical videos that I started with in 2014. After I learned from Fox 13 News Utah on the 4th of November 2016, of the solar eclipse over the whole United States of America. I knew what it meant, and I've been doing the videos for you. demonstrating I have all the keys, especially the key of the man like Moses to be the head of the church. That I am the seer. I am the prophet. I am the revelator. I am the translator of Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian Mormons. And I am trying to save your life. And you want me dead? Do you not understand the evil of this church yet? Oaks knows exactly what's coming now. I would not find out about this until last November. It was a leak of a leak of a leak of a leak that leaked to me. It literally is a miracle that this happened. Because it shouldn't have. It was not supposed to. It was supposed to be, shh, don't tell. It is a miracle that it happened. And it only happened because of Monson making the change of the age of missionaries. If he did not make that change, thinking that that would increase growth and thus money to the church through conversion of the wrong name of the church, lying about the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, continuing to keep the church under condemnation, as Benson confirmed. And we go on to say, the Constitution, as prophesied by Joseph Smith, will be saved. But Joseph is wrong. He's a false prophet. It will not be saved in Washington. The source origin. Las Vegas, Nevada, Saturday, March 14th, 2020, by President, First Counselor, Dallin, Harris, Oaks. As reported by the brand new mission president at that brand new mission president's conference meeting, President Markey. Not supposed to do this, but even still, none of the parents or stake presidents leaked this. Just his one sister missionary. 19 years of age instead of 21. Sister Jessica, who's gone missing. This is not the end of the world. He writes this in chiasmus. He put this in quotes. This is Oaks in chiasmus. This is not the end of the world, Armageddon, but merely a test. Excuse me? A trial run for the second coming. Yep. I already knew the information. And here Oaks was confirming it. in the latter days. And that's why it did not happen in 2020 and 2021, why we're still here now. OAKS of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the evil-disposed and designing militant persons who shall come and burn the world with Armageddon, steal their loot to the storehouse, and mass murder everyone. There's also severe sex crimes involved too, with the Nicolaitan ban that was talked about in Revelation 2. So yeah, dipping into the kiddie pool is just part of that. It gets worse, as I've gone over with you guys. And that's what really upsets this church. When I would do sex crime videos, I would instantly get retaliated against more severely than normal, until I crossed the line with the way to perfection. Thomas B. Marsh was not excommunicated by Joseph Smith. He wasn't even excommunicated. Joseph Smith was in Liberty Jail. The whole incident was a lie. It never happened. George Albert Smith made it all up to frame and blame Thomas B. Marsh for his disloyalty. So the clip that I've been using from Gordon B. Hinckley, if there are any apostates, prepare your backs for a good whipping. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is going to exterminate mankind. They've already been stealing trillions of dollars. They are going to burn the world to the ground. OAKS got leaked by a little sister missionary who's gone missing. So I was inspired to check, and I don't really see how it has any significance, but nonetheless, 101, when both Monson and Nelson died, PM. In HTTP status code, it means switching protocols. Yep. Sure does. In date code Genie, an app error code for 101 means no internet connection. As a binary code, it is the number 5. It's 5 days since Nelson. What was the 5 days? 27th, so it's not that. What was I thinking for 5 days? Oh, no, that's 4 days. Yeah, I can figure it out now. And 1010, which is today's date, 2025. It's the number 10 in computer binary code. So that's just for fun stuff. I wouldn't go taking this seriously and making it doctrine. Looking beyond the mark. It's day number 4. Day number 4. That could be what it is. Because, yeah, the first day of Tabernacles was on the 16th, but 17th is day 1. So this is day 4, but if you count 16, it's day 5. Okay, now I understand. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Got it. So I do need to remember to put in day 4. So far I've been good putting all 3 days in so far. So, back in, where did I put it? Here. When Monson died, his funeral was on Friday the 12th of January 2018. On the 14th, we are told on the 16th that the 12 met and laid their hands on Nelson to make him number 17. Two days after the funeral. Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the 15th. So on the 16th, they held their special meeting to announce that Nelson is now the president of the church, and held the press conference where Peggy Fletcher Stack cheated and asked a second question. The press were notified in advance so that they would send an RSVP as to whether or not they're coming and what their one question would be, as we were told in the press conference, that they were in advance given notice of, so that the living prophets of Jesus could script the answer and read from the monitor as you see OAKS mouthing it. So, because she asked a second question, it wasn't on the screen, and they therefore skipped it. Oh, Peggy, he knows your parents. As he threatened you. I know who you are. So, yeah, after the funeral, they made a big spectacle of it. I am now the president of the church. 2 days later, and then made the announcement to the press. As I found out doing the John Taylor dipping into the kiddie pool video, Today is the anniversary of when Eyring got up at the solemn assembly for Nelson and said that this was the first time that the succession goes to the president of the Quorum of the 12, with John Taylor, on October 10th. Whatever year it was like 3 years later, so it would be 1880. Okay, so Nelson died, had his funeral Tuesday. It's now Friday. Nothing. Nothing. Church news has gone silent all this week after the funeral. The web page has gone back to conference. They put back in Nelson's funeral. I caught it, guys. I got it documented. Oops. Yep. They boo-booed on the website, but put it back, hoping that I didn't catch it. I caught it. I got it. It's going in the historical documents. They aren't planning on making OAKS the president of the church. That was made very clear at conference. As I did the video. And yet, Mormons live in denial land. They don't listen. They're expecting an announcement any time now that OAKS was installed as the president of the church. Gee, I hope he doesn't die before he becomes president. But we gotta wait and see. Wait and see. So the bigger context of what's going on. I should probably take a station identification break and come back to it. Because Armageddon is not just a religious thing. It involves government being overthrown. And that's what we get to cover next. After a station identification break. Need to get some commercials. Yo quiero Taco Bell. Good genes. If I didn't have YouTube violating copyright laws, I'd be putting in commercials. That would be funny. Windows of heaven were nice this morning. I probably shouldn't have worn the sweats, as they got very heavy, especially after getting soaked. And but the shoes, previously the shoes I had were not water resistant, and so during a rain my socks would get soaked as well. So with this place, I bought a new pair of shoes, and they worked well enough that I repurchased them when they wore down. And so with the rain this morning, socks are dry. So kudos for whichever brand that I purchased. They are not a known brand to me, but they worked. They worked. So, yeah. God. Skechers. I tried Skechers once. They didn't even last a year. That's how bad Skechers are. So I don't care if Shaq advertises them. He needs to find a better product. You know, Michael Jordan advertises better products. Okay, end of the world, Armageddon. Investigating crime scenes. I will not stop trying to save you, Mormons. Despite your attempts to have me assassinated because you want this to happen. And you're not catching on how the church is using you to betray you. So we get to Charlie Kirk's assassination. The East Idaho News yesterday reported that the newly assigned lawyers for Tyler Robinson put in the request that for all future court appearances, because he has not been found guilty yet, that he appear in regular clothes and without shackles. Now, this is a traditional practice in Utah to prove guilt by accusation. I know all about it from 2008, right, D. Dodd? Yes, prosecution purposely wants to present an image of the defendant in chains, in jail clothes, with the protective vest to cover his nudity, to show the jury that he's a bad man and he needs the death penalty. This is irrelevant to the case. This is a malicious prosecution attack that has become a long-standing new norm tradition. Because in Utah, they don't investigate crime. They torture people in jail until they confess that they're guilty of something. And I've been witness. People said, I gotta get home to my family. I gotta get home to my job. I gotta get home to my life. I'll just plead to a lesser charge, time served now, for all the months I've been here without a trial, so that I can get my life back. But it's a trap. Because now you've got a record. You pled guilty. So if they need a fall guy in the future, oh, you've got a criminal history. You pled guilty. You served time. And then when you get a third strike, you're not supposed to use your past for a crime. It's unrelated. It would be like doing double jeopardy, which is unconstitutional. Yet, prosecution in Utah especially do not want to investigate a crime. It's too much work. They want people to confess, so they torture people in jail. And the people who get tortured in jail are those who are poor and can't afford bail. Tyler has been betrayed by his parents. he's been denied bail, I think. East Idaho News reporting this. Say Robinson, 22, of Washington County, is charged with aggravated murder, a capital offense, and faces editor a potential death sentence if convicted of shooting and killing Kirk on the campus of Utah Valley University on September 10th. Kirk, 31, a conservative activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA, which apparently, despite putting his wife as the president, they're having some vacuum authority power issues, was sitting under a tent of an outdoor amphitheater courtyard area at UVU, speaking in front of approximately 3,000 people when he was shot in the neck. By a gunman on the roof of the nearby Luze Center building. East Idaho News also vindicates Tyler Robinson. They don't catch it. They don't even spell faces right. They don't catch it. They are reporting what they were told to report. That Kirk was shot in the C2 vertebrae by a gunman on the Luze building on the roof. As he's down on the amphitheater in a tent, sitting in a chair, and supposedly the angle, which I did the video for you yesterday, Valhalla, showed us it couldn't have been the Luze building. Tyler did not do it. Even if Tyler is the man in the videos, on the cameras, in the pictures. No rifle. It's the wrong angle. It's too far away. He had no scope. You know, I had a person come to one of the videos I did recently, I don't know if it was Valhalla or not, who says, no, it's an easy shot. With a scope. He didn't have a scope. They found email, text, whatever, that he had received the gun from his grandpa, which was not the original gun that they said, nor was it the one they reported in court. And that he was going to try to raise the money for a $2,000 scope, but didn't get it. No scope. You cannot put in evidence that isn't evidence. You can't make stuff up to defend that Tyler is guilty. And yet that's exactly what Governor Cox did when he took over the case. immediately. The sheriff of Orem was the one who should have been in charge of the case. And after the hearing, he had to change his testimony. Because in the hearing, they said he said other things. So he had to come out and say, I've got to change my testimony. This is how it actually happened now. Perjury? Tyler is innocent. Governor Cox is responsible for the cover-up. Kash Patel, he showed up later. Cox took over the narrative. They never did an investigation. They got somebody that got turned in, and so they then went and did a character assassination of him. Going through all of his stuff, planting DNA evidence, potentially making up documents, text messages, Discord, which got hacked. I wonder why. And the lawyers are just saying, we want them to show up in regular clothes with no shackles. Really, guys? They're getting paid $1 million. It is in their best financial interest to prolong this case as long as possible, ruining a man's life, their client. All of this should immediately, Your Honor, the timeline is wrong. There's no evidence tying the so-called person who was on the roof, if it is my client, to the shooting. He would have been shot in the jaw. The autopsy says he was not shot in the jaw. He was shot in this direction from the Fugel building. Governor Cox tampered with the investigation and let the shooter go. Governor Cox gave aid and comfort to the assassination, making Governor Cox part of the conspiracy. Governor Cox, guilty of assassinating Charlie Kirk. A conspiracy assassination. Let's go back to 1838 again. Those Mormons involved with the secret combination Danites who framed and blamed Joseph to take over the church, threatening Mormons to join us or die. Cox, Stewart, Curtis, Mendenhall, Young, Kimball, George Albert Smith, and others. Thanks to the ledger that the church, under Nelson, rushed out in the Joseph Smith papers for Thanksgiving 2023, with my 6-hour video series going over it, was the ledger of all the Danites. All the names, And that's why I know about Cox, Stewart, Curtis, Mendenhall. The evil disposed and designing militant persons who are going to cause Armageddon. And Governor Cox is now directly implicated in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And what happened as a result? Yeah, Trump is now declaring war against Antifa. Trans Antifa. Framing and blaming a fellow Mormon for Armageddon. And Mormons want to be a part of this, huh? You don't see how they could just easily throw you under the bus? Frame and blame you so that they get their kingdom back? Fox News also reported that a child here in Utah was denied a turning point recognition in school. You have to be recognized, I guess, as a club to get funding or something like that, to be put in the yearbook. Otherwise you don't. And so a son was denied turning point here in Utah. Again, turning Utah into villains. Framing and blaming local members who know nothing of what I previously talked about in the first hour. So, Armageddon. Revelation chapter 16. In 13, we learn that President Russell Marion Nelson of the Great and Abominable Church of the Synagogue of Mormons of Satan, lying about who they are, goes around the world to the kings of the earth to gather them to battle of Armageddon in the Hebrew tongue. On the 22nd of September, according to my bread dream that I warned you about. Bread number 3. The whole world then declared support for a Palestinian state to fund terrorism, to fund aid and support to Islam, to provide military support against Israel. It is not their land. They came from Muhammad. Muhammad came from Babylon, conquered by Persia. King Cyrus the Great. So, sure enough, Trump got up in the UN and condemned them all to hell for betraying Israel. He's been wanting the Nobel Peace Prize. And so, he's been rushing to get Jared out there to get a deal made. And as others were getting prizes for science, oh no, it's coming up. Hurry, hurry, Trump, hurry, hurry. You know, he's there in the Antifa roundtable. Marco Rubio hands him a note. They've agreed to the first phase. We should expect the hostages to be released Monday or Tuesday. We're a long way from done. But that's what he was doing. He was trying to become the Nobel Peace Prize winner. It was a little too late. A little too late. Maria Corina Machado from Venezuela got it instead. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Trump declared war on Venezuela. As the peacemaker for the Nobel Peace Prize. Oops. Oops. But yes, framing and blaming Jesus. Christians don't believe that Jesus is gonna show, especially Catholics. And so they created spiritual witness feelings. Can I get a witness? It ain't a physical witness like is needed for court. That's why here in Utah, prosecution manipulate the appearance. Use character assassinations. Torture people in jail, denying them access to hearings and a fair trial and due process and a speedy trial, so that the person confesses, case closed. King Cyrus was the one who, in Scripture, is having been quoted as saying, you can go back to your land in Judah, Jerusalem, and rebuild the temple that Babylon destroyed, of whom would come Muhammad, being chased into Saudi Arabia. They still were under Persian rule, still had to give tribute to Persia, but they were allowed to return and build their temple. that was recognized by the Jews. Ooh, a lightning strike. Interesting. Or was it an explosion? Interesting. Because you saw the flicker. I heard something. It could be a lightning strike, but it wasn't rolling. It was more like a... Anyway. We're still running. They haven't shut down the electricity yet. Better hurry. And so the Jews saw this as the type and shadow symbolism of the future Christ, who would restore the Jewish religion. But Joseph Smith makes it very clear, as does the Book of Mormon, that it's Mormons, not the Jews, not Jerusalem. It's the Americas. And so, King Cyrus Trump needs to take out the great and abominable Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints so that the Mormon Christ can then take Mormons in an exodus to Zion. But Trump is focused on Armageddon because of Christian influencing, as well as some little Nazi demons on his shoulders. And so no, all of this was a show. Now that he lost the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't think he's going to be putting so much effort into it, and he will probably get angry and start nuking people. So yeah, pay attention, because that's what is believed to be the case, even though it's supposed to be America. There's a dualistic prophecy being done here, because Christians turned it all into the synagogue of Satan. But the real prophecies are about Mormons here in Utah. Judah, phonetically the same. Okay? So pay attention. Heads are gonna roll. All hell's breaking loose. You got another thing coming. I'm your turbo lover. And thanks to John Taylor, ZZ Top's pearl necklace has now been utterly destroyed. But all of this, the church failed in 2024. I told you they did. They planned to have the Salt Lake Temple finished for April conference in 2024. That was when the eclipse occurred on Monday. The church was planning, no longer a test, to have it all finished and done. Conference was going to be the dedication of the temple, Jesus suddenly coming to his temple. Notice Jesus is now erected. On his throne at Temple Square. caught that. That's why I used that picture in the video the other day. With the meme. Yep. And so then they tried again in October. Oops. Then they tried again in April. Oops. And so here they go again. Number 4. Maybe you should have done another test run, Oaks. You had 200 years to plan and prepare for this, and you failed 4 times already? I've proven myself, and Mormons want me dead. Bleep unbelievable. So, that's it. Pay attention. They aren't going to establish the church any further. It's supposed to be winding down. It's supposed to be dissolved. And like I said, the 2 scenarios. If the church is left alone to rule and reign while everybody else is dead, or the church falls with everybody else. The 2 scenarios, both of which Oaks gets his way, and we all become Amish Mormons with no technology, all destroyed. 1984, implemented upon mankind by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Pure Doctrine of Lucifer of Albert Pike's for the 3 world wars. Big picture, guys. Assemble all the evidence when you're investigating a crime scene. And you can put all the pieces of the puzzle together from what led up to it, what happened during it, and what happened afterward. And you can see exactly what's going on. This church does not belong to the church. It belongs to me. They need to hand it over immediately so that I can save Mormon lives before Armageddon strikes. And I am deeply concerned about Monday and Tuesday now. Now that Trump is not going to get the Nobel Peace Prize, which is the last days of Tabernacles. Monday is the last day of Tabernacles, but there's an 8th day designation for Tabernacles on Tuesday. Thus, why I'm deeply concerned that the hostages may be freed on Monday or Tuesday. It was all started by the attack on the last day of Tabernacles in 2023. I'm very well aware of the danger of Armageddon, as he's sending 200 troops to that region. All the world gathered together at Adam-on-Diamond. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are going silent after the funeral, not selecting Oaks to be the president.